Today, a new triangle is reshaping the world: Russia, China, and Iran. This isn't a formal alliance, but a strategic partnership challenging the US-led order. Recent crises, Ukraine, Middle East tensions, and economic rivalry have drawn them closer. They coordinate militarily, build independent financial systems, and support each other diplomatically. Each brings unique strengths: Russia's energy and military, China's economic power, Iran's regional influence. Together, they form a bloc spanning Eurasia, forcing the world to pay attention. The war in Ukraine accelerated this partnership. Russia turns to Iran for drones. Iran gets advanced military tech in return. China, meanwhile, props up both with oil purchases and trade, defying Western sanctions. Their cooperation is a direct response to US and European pressure. All three share authoritarian governments and a deep skepticism of Western values. Joint military drills and diplomatic cover at the UN show their growing unity. This is no longer just alignment, it's active security and economic cooperation. Security is the first pillar, the bedrock upon which this coalition is built. It's about more than just borders. It's about safeguarding their interests in a rapidly changing world. A key aspect of this security pillar is opposing US influence and NATO expansion. They view these as threats to their own sovereignty and regional stability, pushing back against what they perceive as Western overreach. To bolster their collective security, they share intelligence, pooling resources to monitor potential threats and anticipate challenges. This collaborative approach strengthens their ability to respond effectively to emerging crises. They also coordinate defense strategies and present a united front in conflict zones. This unified stance sends a clear message of solidarity and resolve, deterring potential adversaries and protecting their shared interests. Economically, they are forging a new path, seeking to reduce their reliance on traditional Western financial systems. This involves building alternatives to the dollar and Western finance, creating independent mechanisms for trade and investment. They aim to insulate themselves from external economic pressures and assert greater control over their financial destinies. A crucial element of this is trading in their own currencies, bypassing the dollar in bilateral and multilateral transactions. This reduces their vulnerability to US sanctions and strengthens their economic ties. They are also investing in shared infrastructure projects, fostering connectivity and promoting economic growth within their sphere of influence. These projects serve as vital arteries, facilitating trade and strengthening regional integration. Ideologically, they reject Western democracy as a one-size-fits-all model, arguing that different societies have different needs and values. Instead, they are promoting state sovereignty and their own governance models, emphasizing national identity and cultural traditions. They champion a multipolar world where diverse political systems can coexist and thrive. These pillars reinforce each other, creating a synergistic effect that amplifies their collective power and influence. Economic ties fund military power, providing the resources necessary to modernize their armed forces and project their influence abroad. And shared ideology justifies their stance, providing a moral and intellectual framework for their cooperation. It's a flexible, pragmatic partnership, adapting to changing circumstances and prioritizing mutual benefit. It's resilient and formidable, capable of weathering storms and challenging the established order. This isn't a formal alliance bound by rigid treaties and obligations. Instead, it's a powerful challenge to the global status quo, a force to be reckoned with in the evolving landscape of international relations. This growing partnership between these nations presents a significant challenge to the established global order. One of the most immediate impacts is how it weakens the effectiveness of Western sanctions, which have long been a key tool in international diplomacy and economic pressure. By creating a parallel economic system, complete with alternative payment systems and trade agreements that bypass the traditional dominance of the US dollar and Western financial institutions, these nations are insulating themselves from punitive measures. This defiance of Western economic power emboldens other nations, particularly those in the global South, to seek alternatives to the West and explore new partnerships that align more closely with their own interests and values. This shift is especially pronounced in Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia, where countries are increasingly looking to diversify their economic and political relationships. The result is a more fragmented, multipolar world, where US influence wanes and the global landscape becomes more complex and unpredictable. Regionally, their support complicates US efforts to maintain stability and project power, creating new challenges for American foreign policy. This is particularly evident in the Middle East, Ukraine, and the Asia-Pacific, where geopolitical tensions are already high. They're also shaping the digital world, pushing for state-controlled internet, promoting their own standards, and sharing surveillance tech, which raises concerns about data privacy and freedom of expression. Their coordinated media and information campaigns, often amplified through social media and other digital platforms, challenge Western narratives and contribute to a more contested information environment. The world is entering an era of information and economic competition on a global scale, where the battle for influence is waged not only through military might, but also through control of information and economic resources. The US and its allies are poised to respond decisively. We can anticipate a coordinated effort with sanctions serving as a primary tool to exert pressure. This will lead to stronger alliances, a reaffirmation of mutual defense commitments, and a united front against perceived aggression. Diplomatic ties will be reinforced, solidifying a network of support. Simultaneously, we'll see warnings directed towards China. These will likely be sternly worded, emphasizing the potential consequences of providing support or assistance. The message will be clear. Any action that undermines international stability will not be tolerated. Middle powers like India, with their strategic autonomy, and Turkey, often navigate a complex path, choosing to hedge their bets. They will be seeking benefits from both sides, carefully balancing their relationships to maximize their own interests and influence in the evolving geopolitical landscape. The world could potentially split into rival blocs, reminiscent of past divisions, risking a new Cold War, characterized by heightened tensions, proxy conflicts, and an arms race. This could lead to global instability, with increased risks of regional conflicts and humanitarian crises. Alternatively, the partnership between nations may remain pragmatic, driven by mutual self-interest and specific goals. However, this cooperation will likely be limited by internal frictions and competing interests, preventing a truly unified front. Western diplomacy will likely aim to exploit these differences, seeking to weaken the opposing side by fostering divisions and undermining their cohesion. The ultimate goal will be to avoid escalation, de-escalate tensions, and pursue peaceful resolutions through diplomatic channels. The future will likely be a complex mix of competition and cooperation, a delicate balancing act between conflicting interests and shared goals. The challenge navigating this new and increasingly complex geopolitical landscape without stumbling into major conflict, a task that will require careful diplomacy, strategic foresight, and a commitment to peaceful resolution. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more insightful content.